speak of Ichiro in the next 10 years when we think about what he did for Major League Baseball?
We're going to speak of him with reverence.
Mm.
I'd like to go back to 2001. At the end of that spring training, I'll bet you there was not one scout in Major League Baseball who'd watched him that spring, and probably a lot of coaches and players and managers who thought he was going to make it. He didn't look like a physically imposing player. He's not a physically imposing player. He had his own way of training. He did more stretching, aerobics, all that kind of thing. And he had just looked overmatched in spring training. What he did in the 2001 season at age 27, Rookie of the Year, MVP, but beyond that, it's the way he did it. He made plays in right field that would remind you of Roberto Clemente, and he was off and running. I mean, 2 batting titles, 6, I think, 300 hit seasons, 10-time All-Star, one of the great players that has ever played, and 4,367 hits in Japan and the U.S. He is going into the Hall of. I don't know how we're going to remember him in 10 years, but in 6 years we're going to put him in the Hall of Fame on the first ballot.
Richard, can we describe anyone else to his playing style, or he's just kind of one of a kind?
Yeah, he's one of a kind. Just watching him play, the player I equate him to a little bit is Wade Boggs. But Ichiro is an outfielder, and he just made plays. He had an arm that was one of the great outfield arms you will ever see. And the thing that people don't know, his English is fluent, but he's done very few interviews in English because he's, like a lot of foreign-born players, he's not completely comfortable with the context of his words. I had a friend that asked him in Seattle, hey, look, I'm leaving town. Could you just do one interview with me in English before I go? I may never see you again. And Ichiro says, no. And he walks away, and he comes back and goes, let me rephrase that, hell no. And but before All-Star games, his 10 All-Star games, what became legendary were his pep talks, his funny, profane pep talks to the American League squad before All-Star games. And I guess if and players that were in the room, I mean, it's a moment that they never forgot. They said the guy is funny, he's likable, and smart as hell. He is, if you saw Kikuchi hug him and weep this morning, that tells you what his peers thought of him.
Do you think going forward, every pretty much Asian-born player coming from Asia basically will be linked to Ichiro in terms of where do they compare to what Ichiro was able to do?
For a while here we compared every player here to Willie Mays or Frank Robinson, and now you're going to compare players to Trout. I don't know that that's fair. I just think this guy is such a freakishly talented player and such a unique personality. We may not see another one like him again. And I say that knowing that Shohei Ohtani has a chance to be one of the most interesting players we've ever had. But, he's just getting started in the game, so we really don't know. With Ichiro, we know. We know that in 2025 he's going to the Hall of Fame.
Well, we know at the age of 27, that rookie season, the Rookie of the Year, the MVP, those kind of numbers, and he did it for so long. But if you think about what he was able to accomplish 5 years into his Major League Baseball career, and you think about if he did it right now, and you look at the contracts that were given out to Machado, Harper, now Trout, what do you think that contract would look like for Ichiro had he been playing right now? And if I'm Mookie Betts, who's kind of on a similar path to that after winning an MVP, what does that contract look like right now after seeing what Mike Trout got?
Well, he made $167 million in his career, so he did okay for himself. I think, we're in a launch angle era now, and I think we saw enough to know that if Ichiro had wanted to hit home runs, and that's what makes you a lot of money now, he could have hit home runs. I think he would have gotten, what's the gold standard now is $30+ million a year. He would have been in that because, the guy was on base all the time. He had a better than 380 on base percentage, for about half his years. He made 200 hits look easy. He made 262 hits one year look easy. So I don't know what he would have gotten, because you have to factor in the fact that strikeouts and home runs are what people are paying the best dollars for. But, is he comparable to Mookie Betts? No, but he's a great player.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.